All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into a character everybody thinks they know, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, yeah. But we're going way beyond melting in the rain territory here.
Right, like we're not just rehashing the Wizard of Oz plot. This is about how she went from a simple villain.
To this really complex, even sympathetic figure in some cases. It's fascinating.
Really ISS. So we're working with excerpts from an academic report on this.
Yeah.
It traces her whole evolution.
Exactly. From L. Frank Baum's original book all the way to Gregory Maguire's Wicked,
Oh yeah, that totally flipped the script on her story.
That's our through line. How did this one-dimensional baddie become someone we might actually relate to?
Right, it's like a complete character makeover.
To get it, we got to start at the beginning. Baum's wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1900. Now, this book
It was huge EE back then.
Right.
Like, totally groundbreaking for its time.
uniquely American fantasy. It really captured that early 20th century optimism.
Those values, that whole can-do spirit, but it's the 1939 movie that
Well, it
really...
cemented that image of Oz in our minds forever.
And that Wicked Witch green skin, that menacing stare.
Pure evil. Right. But here's the thing. Baum's original witch.
She was barely even there, was she? Like, not nearly as developed.
Nope. More of an obstacle for Dorothy to overcome. That's it.
So why do you think Baum kept her so simple?
Well, maybe it was just about focusing on Dorothy's journey. Each challenge gets her closer to the goal.
So the witch was more of a symbol, not a complex character.
I think so. But then almost a century later, along comes Gregory Maguire.
And Wicked, his 1995 novel, changes everything.
It's not even a retelling, it's a reimagining. The question he asks is, who was she before Dorothy?
And right away, just giving her the name Elphaba.
That does something, doesn't it? It's not a name that screams pure evil.
No, there's a hint of something else there, something more complex.
And we should point out, Maguire loved reinterpreting classics, fairy tales especially. He was drawn to...
The other side of the story. Those perspectives we don't usually hear.
Exactly. And his Oz is completely different from Baum's. It's got politics, social layers.
Yeah, the report uses words like complex, stratified. Good and evil aren't so easy to spot anymore.
And Elphaba, she's tragic, empowering. Even the report says, misunderstood.
Well, she is born with green skin. Immediately, she's different in a society that values conformity.
It's a mark of otherness, right? A visual representation of how society treats those who don't fit in.
But Maguire takes it further, right? It's not just about her appearance.
No, Elphaba has a strong sense of justice. She sees the hypocrisy in Oz and she calls it out.
So it's not just about her personal struggles.
She's fighting for what she believes in, even if it makes her the wicked one.
That's huge, especially compared to Baum's witch, who is all about her own self-interest.
Right, and make you think about how we decide who's good and who's evil, whose story gets told.
It's all about perspective, and that's what makes comparing these two versions of Oz so fascinating.
Almost a century apart, two completely different contexts. Baum's Oz was all about early 20th century American ideals.
Right. Hard work, success, good always wins. It was a reflection of that time, time of progress.
But Maguire's Oz, that's late 20th century disillusionment. We're talking prejudice, oppression.
The abuse of power.
Yeah.
It feels much darker.
It is. It's a world where good and evil are blurred. Systems are corrupt. People get crushed by forces they can't control.
In Elphaba, she becomes a symbol of resistance against all that.
Exactly. So we have these two Oz stories that are incredibly different reflections of their times.
But both of them, huge EE cultural impact.
Mm-hmm.
The 1939 film Wicked on Broadway?
Countless other versions. Why do you think we keep retelling these stories? What's the draw?
I think Oz taps into something universal. It's about searching for meaning for your place in a world that's...
Confusing. That makes sense.
Whether it's Baum's Oz or Maguire's, there's something in those stories that we connect with.
And the Wicked Witch, she's become part of that appeal, that struggle for understanding, for acceptance.
Oh, totally. And it's so relevant today, right? I mean, look how much our idea of her has changed.
That's what's fascinating. She's gone from this simple representation of everything bad
to a character who makes us rethink those easy labels, who forces us to ask, what makes someone wicked anyway?
That's a great question. And it sets the stage perfectly for exploring all the different ways she's been portrayed.
Right. The 1939 film especially, and the Broadway musical Wicked, they both took her in totally different directions.
Yeah, those are big ones. I'm excited to dig into those.
Me too. Let's dive in.
Let's start with that 1939 film. I mean, it came out when the world was a pretty scary place.
Yeah, the Depression, fascism on the rise, war looming. People were looking for something.
Simple good guys, bad guys, clear lines, and the film gave them that.
Oh, it did. And visually stunning, too. I mean, who can forget that Wicked Witch?
Right. Green skin, the cackle, those flying monkeys. I mean, talk about nightmare fuel.
But it worked because she tapped into those primal fears,
Mm,
like the unknown threatening your way of life.
exactly. And she was pure evil, no question.
So when Dorothy defeats her,
It's this huge symbol of hope.
right,
Like good always triumphs, even when things are dark.
absolutely, people needed that. They fast forward to 2003, Wicked premieres on Broadway. Talk about a different world, right? Post 9/11, our ideas of good and evil.
Way more complex. Yeah. Suddenly, a musical about the misunderstood witch.
Felt incredibly timely, didn't it? Like we were ready to question those simple narratives.
Absolutely. And Wicked doesn't shy away from those complexities at all.
Nope. We see Elphaba's struggles with prejudice that corrupt wizard her fight for justice.
It humanizes her, without excusing her actions. We see her flaws, her anger.
But we get it. We understand why she becomes who she does.
And there's that relatability too, right? Elphaba is the outcast struggling with her identity.
That's something everyone can connect with on some level.
It's what makes the book and the musical so powerful. They challenge us to look beyond those easy labels.
Right. To see the human side. Even the people we think are different or threatening.
Exactly. So let's recap for a sec. We've got Baum's witch as that symbol of fear and obstacles.
Then the 39 film takes that and cranks it up to 11 for a world on the brink.
And Maguire and Wicked, well, they bring her down to earth, give her depth motivations, make us wonder who's really wicked.
It's amazing how one character can be interpreted in so many ways. It really reflects how our values change over time.
And yet there's something about the Wicked Witch that stays relevant no matter what.
It's like she taps into this deeper part of us,
Yeah.
that struggle for justice, wanting to be understood.
And that need to question authority, to challenge the status quo.
Totally. She reminds us that even in a story as seemingly simple as The Wizard of Oz.
There are deeper layers waiting to be uncovered. Always.
So back to our main question. How does she go from villain to icon?
I think it's because she embodies those timeless struggles, those universal themes.
Right, Baum gave us the basic outline. The film made her a symbol of everything scary.
And then Maguire and Wicked humanized her, made us rethink our assumptions.
And bam, cultural icon. She's become this reflection of our own changing values.
It's like looking into a mirror held up to our cultural history,
It makes you wonder what's next for the Wicked Witch. How will future generations see her?
That's what the report leaves us thinking about. Remember that final prompt, if you wrote an Oz story today.
Oh, yeah. What would your Wicked Witch represent? What would be the theme?
It's such a great way to get people thinking. Not just watching or reading passively, but actively engaging.
Oz is this playground for our imagination.
I love that.
And by exploring these darker parts of it.
Understanding her journey, it might even help us deal with the complexities of our own world.
Such a great point. So why should all of this matter to us? We don't live in Oz after all. I think it comes down to stories having power. You know how they shape our view of the world and how we judge others? Like you grow up with that image of the Wicked Witch, green skin cackling and...
Flying monkeys, the whole deal.
Yeah.
Scary stuff when you're a kid.
But it was so simple back then.
Right.
Good versus evil, end of story.
Exactly. And now we've got Maguire and all these other interpretations. Things are way more nuanced.
We question those easy labels, don't we? Like, is anyone really all bad?
The report makes that point. Both Baum and Maguire, they used Oz as a metaphor for their own time.
Right. So for Baum the Witch, she was like a threat to this simpler way of life.
But for Maguire, Elphaba's fighting against oppression systems that are messed up?
So who are our wicked witches today? I mean, what represents that same...
It could be anything, really. Climate change denial, the spread of misinformation.
Things that feel huge and overwhelming and kind of...
evil.
Yeah.
But maybe like the Wicked Witch herself.
There's more to the story.
Right, exactly.
So instead of just slapping a label on something or someone...
Like wicked.
Yeah. Maybe we need to dig a little deeper. Try to see the context.
See the human side.
Yeah.
Even in the people we disagree with.
It's not about saying bad behavior is okay.
No, not at all. But recognizing that the world isn't always black and white.
There's so much gray area.
Right.
And understanding that helps us deal with
everything we're facing today. For sure.
And it all comes back to that question the report asks. If we were to write an Oz story, N-A-W.
Oh, yeah. What would our Wicked Witch be? What would she stand for?
I love that. It means we're not just sitting back and taking these stories in.
We're engaging with them. We're thinking critically.
We're coming up with our own versions. It's like,
Oz is this giant playground for our minds.
I like that. And by exploring those darker parts, by getting to know the Wicked Witch,
maybe we learn something about ourselves, about how to deal with our own world.
That's pretty amazing thought. So we've gone from a simple villain in a book,
To this character who makes us question everything.
and that is a pretty wickedly good outcome for this deep dive, I'd say.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to everyone listening out there, keep questioning, keep exploring. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to write the next chapter in the Wicked Witch's story.